Sir,
our heart is very much in that space, so we love to do anything that can help.
yes, sir. We will be.
We can start the session.
Yes, sir. 406, sir.
Total,
Yes.
Yeah, we have got 406 participants
Yes,
who have
you can
joined.
start as
Yes.
Nisha ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Good morning. And I, Dr. Nisha Ashokan from College of Management, welcome you all to the 5th edition of Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series. In accordance with our founder chancellor's dream of creating a fountainhead of knowledge like our ancient Nalanda, and in consistence with his vision statement, learn, lead, and lead, Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series will provide enough food for thought, changes to recreate and transform India, to open up new, varied, versatile vistas which will be beneficial to our students and teaching fraternity. Keeping with the current situation, we are having the first virtual version of the lecture series. Let's start the program with a Tamil Thai Varthu. I request Raja to go ahead and play them. I request you all to please rise for the same.
சீராரும் மதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை முதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம்பியந்து செய்ய மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
So far, in the series of lecture, we had 4 knowledge sharing sessions, which included the likes of Dr. Gopalasamy, former Chief Election Commission. He spoke on present election systems in India. And we had another stalwart, Mr. Venkatraman, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, who spoke on abrogation of Article 370 and its impact. Today, we are all here for the 5th lecture in the series, along with the esteemed panel members, including the speaker of the day, Mr. Pian Vasudevan, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Equitas Small Finance Bank Limited, Chennai. The place, Chennai, takes immense pride in Mr. Vasudevan, as he is the founder of the first bank to be based out of Chennai. The person who made sure that his efforts and the opportunities always met at some point of time. We have amongst us today, Honorable Chancellor Sir, Pro-Chancellor Academics, Pro-Chancellor Administration. We have our VC Sir, Vice Chancellor Sir, Dr. C. Muthamachelvan. We have Dr. B. Raghavan, Advisor to the Honorable Chancellor, Registrar, Dr. S. Ponuswamy. We have Dean, College of Management, Dr. V.M. Ponnaiah. We have Academic Head, College of Management, Dr. T. Ramachandran. We have Head Executive Programs, College of Management, Dr. V.M. Shanbagaraman. We have our program coordinators, Dr. Bhaskar and Dr. K. Balaji. We have also the guests from industry, academia, and our student fraternity. Now, I request our beloved, most respected, and very entrepreneurial VC, our Vice Chancellor, Dr. C. Muthamachelvan Sir, to deliver the welcome address. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nisha. Distinguished delegates, participants, and partakers, very good morning to all of you. Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series creates opportune moments to reburbish and debate upon the issues of mutual interest with our esteemed delegates. The lectures pave the way to brush upon a spectrum of exciting and benefiting themes, as well as promote deep thinking for betterment of the society at large. On behalf of the management of SRM Institute of Science and Technology, I deem it a great privilege to welcome you all to Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series 5th edition. It is a glorious moment to extend my warm wishes of welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Pian Vasudevan, Managing Director and CEO, Equitas Small Finance Bank Limited, Chennai. We are also grateful to you for accepting our invitation, and we look forward to an enriched session on entrepreneurship with the social face. I also take the privilege of extending a pleasant welcome to all gathered here. For the benefit of new attendees, I share with you the following update. Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture 1 was on Need for India-Centric Development Model. This was held on 28th February 2019, and the lecture was delivered by Sri S. Gurumurthy, Chartered Accountant, Corporate Advisor, and a journalist. The second lecture was on present election system in India, that was delivered on on 22nd June 2019 by Dr. Gopalasamy. The third lecture was on abrogation of Article 370 and its impact. This was done on 15th October 2019 by Mr. Venkatraman, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court. And the latest lecture was on future jobs in India and the role of universities on 7th January 2020 by Ms. Shobha Mishra Ghosh, Assistant Secretary General, FICCI. Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series was conceptualized by our Honorable Chancellor and Member of Parliament, Perambalur Constituency. In the words of our Chancellor, such lectures are organized for greater number of audience across the globe to gain insight and information that would remain effective in their lives. Yes, such lectures are indeed one of its kind. I once again welcome all gathered and wish you all to have a productive session. Hearty welcome once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I invite our very proactive Dean, Dr. V.M. Pannaiah, sir, College of Management, to introduce the guest speaker of the day to us, Mr. Pian Vasudevan.
Good morning to one and all present here. It is indeed a great opportunity for all the participants, mostly the postgraduate and graduate students of business management, research scholars, faculty members, and invitees from various forum of industry. I take this opportunity to introduce the chief guest. Before that, a minute of sharing of insights. All the students and research scholars, you are all aware in today's context, any business entity have to change, face the challenges of three broad areas. Number one, the economic challenges, how to make sustainable profitability and then meet the stakeholders' interest. Number two, how to make the human values in the system, how the livelihood of brothers and sisters in the nearby society have to be taken care of. The last one, environmental challenges. The post-COVID-19 has taught a lesson how we have to take care of the atmosphere environment. Very few business enterprises are able to make the challenges and they are overcome the challenges. Today we have with us one of the very, very successful and very proud son of from the state of Tamil Nadu. I take this opportunity to welcome Pian Vasudevan, and it is my pleasure to introduce to the audience. Pian Vasudevan is the MD and CEO of Equitas Small Finance Bank, Chennai. Vasudevan started Equitas in 2007 as a microfinance institution and later diversified into other retail lending, addressing the segments that are not effectively addressed by other mainstream lenders. In 2015, Equitas received an in-principle license from the Reserve Bank of India to convert into a bank and was the first to do so in September 2016. The bank has a network of about 477 lending branches and 377 liability branches across the country as on date. Equitas is also very active on its CSR activities and sets apart 5% of annual profit for the same. Students, you must be knowing what is the Companies Act, 2% of CSR activity, but they are maintaining 5% of their annual profit for the CSR activities. The initiatives cover health, skill training, running of schools, food security, and entrepreneurship development, and payment dollar rehabilitation program. Prior to this, Vasudevan worked at DCB Bank Limited, Mumbai, as Executive Vice President and Head Consumer Banking for a little less than 2 years. Earlier to that, he worked in Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited, Chennai, for about 2 decades. He had commenced vehicle finance in Cholamandalam in the year 1991 till 2005. Vasudevan is basically a company secretary and a law graduate. He lives in Chennai and is with his wife and daughter. At this moment, I welcome with folded hands our chief guest and very eagerly waiting to listen to his presentation. I thank our honorable advisor to our honorable chancellor, Dr. Raghavan sir, who has been mentor and guiding the School of Management and SRMIST in general in such very creative programs to meet all the stakeholders. Thank you, sir, Raghavan sir. Over to Nisha Ashok.
I think this is the part that we are all waiting for. I invite Mr. Pian Vasudevan, sir, to kindly share your learnings and unlearnings with us today. Welcome, sir, please.
Thank you, Ms. Nisha. Thank you. First of all, thanks to your Chancellor, Dr. Paarivendhar, and your Vice Chancellor, Dr. Muthammal Selvan, and also Dr. Ponnaya for inviting me. And thanks to Mr. Raghavan, advisor to the Chancellor, for sponsoring me for this event and requesting me to come for this event. And thank you to Dr. Bhaskar also, who came to our office and made a personal invitation to me. Thank you so much for all of you to invite me to this program. You know, it's always a pleasure to come to a college campus. And unfortunately, of course, we are not in the campus today. We are all sitting at our respective offices or homes or I don't know, wherever. But I wish it had been a physical meeting, because there's nothing more energetic and energizing than coming to a campus full of hundreds and thousands of youngsters. You know, it's a chance, or it's an opportunity for old people like us to kind of relive our past, get back some level of energy and motivation in our old bodies and old cells, and come back more rejuvenated than earlier. So it's always a pleasure, and I would have really been even more happier if we could have only had it on a physical meeting. I do hope that at some point in time, you know, I am able to come physically, that when situations normalize, we are able to have a physical meeting, and I hope to get an invitation at some point, and I would really treasure that a lot more than this online. But we will try and do the best that we can under the circumstance through the online method. See, all of us, all of you are all graduating from management from a very premier institute in the country. And I also was going through the background of the placements, campus placements of your institute. And I understand that practically all of you get placed in pretty good organizations at good senior positions. So that's a great thing, and I'm sure kudos to the institute for establishing a very strong track record of quality of students that graduate out of your institute. Now, in a way, is that actually a handicap for entrepreneurship? Is a question that was ringing in my mind. You know, if I am going to graduate from your institute, and I know that before I graduate, I'm going to get a fancy little offer from a good company or a good well-known organization or a good brand, and I'm going to get a salary which is pretty decent. I'm just a college student, and if I get a salary which is a few lakh rupees, is that so motivating, and is that so attractive that, you know, I'm going to not even consider or look at the harder path of entrepreneurship? Is a thought that was ringing in my mind. So I am wondering whether the success of your institute itself might be a reason for not promoting entrepreneurship amongst the students. But I think, yes, the entrepreneurship spirit has definitely caught up in the country. I mean, all of us know that. All of us are very much aware of that. Today, we have a right to dream today in India. Even if you are not, I remember in those days, none of us used to ever think of starting a company. I mean, nobody ever thought of starting a company, ever. The only people who can think of starting companies are people who are born into industrial houses, born into business houses and industrial houses. Only they could ever think of starting companies, because starting a company needs money, and no one has money. The entire rest of the 99 point whatever percentage of the Indian population had to be workers, had to be employees, and we had to just eke out our living through monthly salaries. There's no way that we could have ever dreamt of that kind of money. So even dreaming was not possible. Forget doing it. Even we couldn't dream of being an entrepreneur in India. So any presentation, if you just go back to a decade, let's say just 5 years, 6 years, or 8 years back, if you go back in time by just a matter of as short a time frame as 7 or 8 years back, and then you go and look at the PowerPoint presentation of anybody anywhere in the country talking about entrepreneurship, it'll have photos of all Americans. It'll only have people who are all American people and examples which are all American companies for entrepreneurship, because that's the only thing that existed. And so that's how it was. But today the life has changed, the world has changed, and our country has changed dramatically. Today, suddenly, people have the right to dream. Everybody has a right to dream. And that right to dream is totally unfettered and unconstrained by any of your backgrounds. Nothing, none of your backgrounds need to be a constraint to dream. And if you are able to dream, and if your dream has a value in it, then there is enough environmental support and assistance for you to convert the dream into reality. So that's the way the whole country has changed, the environment has changed, and money is available. Money is available. I mean, we have heard of entrepreneurs who are failed. For every one guy that we feed and celebrate, there must be hundreds of guys who have failed. And they have failed because somewhere the money dried up. Somewhere the money dried up. The next round of funding did not come and they could not sustain. So they just kind of folded out. But that doesn't mean that money is not there. Money is still there, and money is chasing every single dream, provided that dream has some value in it. So ultimately, people are looking for some value. And so if you have some value, or if you have some, idea which has a value in it, which has a merit in it, which is addressing something or the other for a consumer or a customer, then there is enough money to back you up. So that's the situation that we are in today. So this topic that I chose for today is entrepreneurship with a social phase. So there are two components to that. One is the entrepreneurship component, and the other is the social phase. So I will come to that social phase a little later, because that's, of course, I know it's a little boring for all of us, and not as exciting as making money. So making money is very exciting. A social cause, or a supporting social cause, or promoting or working for a social cause may not be that exciting for some of us, at least. Anyway, that part of it I'll come to later. First, let me talk about making money. That's the most interesting part for all of us, I know. So let's talk about how do we make more money for ourselves. So if the presentation can be shown, please.
Mr. Raja, can you enable? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So as I was saying, the world is full of opportunities for the right guys and the right ideas. Next, please. So what's an unicorn? I'm sure all of you know. Yeah, a unicorn is a company which is privately held and valued at over $1 billion. So that's a very common definition of an unicorn. Next, please. So this is a count of unicorns in the world. And as you can see, India has actually come up to the 4th level worldwide, globally, we are in the 4th as of 2019. And I believe in 2020, we have moved to the 3rd position in terms of countries with the highest number of unicorns. Next, please. And if you see where is the money going, where is all this private equity investments flowing, internet and software services still account for the largest share of the money in the world, followed by e-com, and then the fintech and healthcare. Healthcare is something which is catching up really fast. About 3-4 years back, this box, the size of the box on healthcare used to be much smaller. That's something that's dramatically catching up over the last 2 to 3 years. It's really strongly caught up. On-demand services, and then the hardware, and then you have a range of other areas which are attracting money. But if you see basically internet and software services, I think that's caught up the maximum amount of money. And e-com and fintech are equally very, very strong in terms of attracting money. But these are very positional. These are very positional. It's not to say that if you want to start a company of your own, it's better to start an internet or a software services company, because that seems to attract the most money or the most valuations. It's not really like that. It's just that this is a positional thing as on today. Maybe 3 years or 5 years from today, we may suddenly discover that one new area has come up. Some bright individual has thought of an idea which is trying to solve a real problem of some part of the society. And that is nothing to do with any of these areas. It's a very different area, let's say, and that just becomes a rage. So we don't really know which will be the area which will attract money in the future. But if you are trying to do something in these areas, then what happens is these are all kind of set areas. And the businesses models are reasonably set, valuation methods are fairly established, and success metrics are fairly established. So if you start a company in internet services or e-com or anything like that, then people quickly know, okay, what to look for. They know what metrics to measure you against. And then they take a call whether it's worth betting on you or not. But if you try and come with a completely new area, for example, I'm seeing here, logistics is not there at all in this entire spectrum. I see logistics is not there. So, if somebody thinks of something in logistics, you don't have a given metrics in the market against which your idea or your performance or metrics is going to be measured. But it's possible that it could just suddenly take off, because logistics is again a huge market and a huge industry. And if you're able to disrupt that and create some value, maybe you could again develop something which is very unique in that space. So there may be other areas which is not here. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not that all of us need to only figure out what we can do within these areas. So long as we have an idea and there's a market, any area or any space is fine enough. Next, please. So as I was saying, India has actually moved to the 3rd highest now in the world. And so that's a matter of pride for all of us. It's a matter of pride that after US and China, we are now number 3 in terms of the billion-dollar entities. Next, please. Okay, now next I'm going to show you a few photographs, and I'm not going to say who they are. I'm not going to say which company they represent, because I believe that all of us would be aware of these people and aware of the companies that they have created. This person who is on the photograph here, he has actually kind of created a new path. He did not tread the beaten track. And, he was in the US and then came back to India to start his company. And his whole point was that, when you go to a shop and you're trying to make some payments, then change becomes a challenge. So change becomes a challenge. How do you get change? And then, you either give up saying it's okay, it's all right, leave it, or something like that. Or it takes time for you to go and get change and pay it and get your goods or services or whatever. So it just started with chiller, so to say in Hindi, chillraila aaramcha company. Today, I guess it's valued around $17 billion or whatever, somewhere in that range. So he found his calling in just change. Next, please. So this guy did not start something, unique. He did not invent or create anything. He just copied a existing model of someone else and just started that in India. And that's it. Now he is probably the youngest billionaire and the most successful person in India in terms of startups. So, and I'm sure you all know him. His company is going great guns, and they have in fact recently signed up with Tamil Nadu government also to start a e-scooter manufacturing project. So great guns they are going, but unlike the first person, he saw his future in change in Childrilla Pathar. But this guy didn't actually have to innovate. He really didn't have to innovate. He just copied. That's it. So to be successful doesn't always have mean that we have to come with some unique, something absolutely brilliant, unique idea which no humanity has ever thought of. It's okay. That's also good. You can do that if you can. That's great. But it's not that that's the only route to success. If you can just see someone else is doing something very good, simply go and copy that. But copy it in a very efficient and effective manner, more than enough. Even then, you can create a lot of value for both you and the society around you. Next, please. So this is another guy who is also a copycat, so to say. He's also a copycat. And again, he just copied from some other firm which was doing it in other countries, just copied it and did it very, very well. And so that's it. He is also very successful today. Next, please. So we see people who are all 30s, 20s, 40s and all that. So does it mean that, if you've already crossed the age of say 30 or 40, can we then take it that, sorry, your entrepreneurship life is over and you missed the bus? If you're 40 years old or 50 years old, can we then kind of draw a line and say, sorry, your entrepreneurship opportunities in life is completed and you have no more opportunity. You lost all your energy, enthusiasm, and youthfulness required for entrepreneurship. And so sorry, now you will have to just be an employee all your rest of your life. Or is it possible that entrepreneurs can also emerge even at an older age? So I've just taken two examples right from Chennai. And as I mentioned sometime back, today you don't have to go globally to get examples. You can get examples within India. You can get examples within Tamil Nadu. You can get examples within Chennai. And if you are sitting in a smaller part of Chennai, within that also, I'm sure you can get some example or the other of entrepreneurs. So these are two examples I've just taken just from our own city of Chennai. Next, please. So this is a lady. Her name is Radha. And as you can see, she's 75 years old. And you would think that ladies in Indian, society and in Indian context, ladies themselves doing anything is always a challenge for them, because the society kind of stereotypes them into a particular model or a particular, profile. And to break that profile, break that model and come out at all itself is a big challenge for ladies in India. And so you would think that a person who is crossed 70 years of her lifetime would have hung up her boots long back. The desire to fight the society would have expired a long time back. And she will just say that, what can we do? I'm born a lady. Now what can I do? That's what people are supposed to say. And so that's what some people are supposed to do. But unfortunately for all of us, stereotyped society members, this lady chose not to say that. And instead, she just said that, I still probably have a lot of, energy or life left in me. Can I do something which is very significant? And so she started something which is an innovation. Again, it's an innovation by itself. We have all seen ready to cook foods, ready to eat foods. We have bought them in the past. So they are always in a sachet packet. And that sachet packet, all you do is you take a bowl and a bowl of hot water and put that sachet into that hot water. And after some time, the food is cooked inside the sachet. And then you take the sachet out, cut it and pour it into a plate and you can eat it. So this is a kind of instant food or ready to cook food that we have seen. Now this lady, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know her story. I'm sure if we talk to her, maybe we'll get her story. Maybe I'm just guessing. Maybe she was in a flight someday and she was hungry and there was no, warm food or hot food. There's no hot food available. Or I don't know, maybe that might have been a trigger. I don't know. But she found out that there is a problem in a flight. You can't have a bowl in which you can put hot water and dip the sachet there. I mean, it's just a problem statement that that product does not work in a flight. And so she has come back and created or invented a product, which is another ready-to-cook food product, no doubt on that, but differently. And it addressed a problem which was not addressable by the existing products. And that is what, I mean, all of us who travel by flights, all of us have eaten our food, which is called that magic upma, magic masala, magic biryani, magic whatever. So it is that box in Indigo, SpiceJet, everywhere you get those boxes. You cut it and put it in the box and put warm water and that's it. Close it and it's ready to eat. So it's very neat, very easy, very convenient, even inside a flight. And today her company is doing extremely well. They have signed long-term contracts with all the airlines and you can go to any shopping malls. Their products are available. And she is a recipient of any number of entrepreneurship awards in the recent past. And all of this she has been able to do after crossing the age of 70. So next, please. And here is another person. His name is Anandan. So he is also 70 plus, and he is again an employee all his life. He has been an employee all his life. So no entrepreneurship streak in him at all. No entrepreneurship streak in his family either. He doesn't come from an industrial house either. And just an employee, just like any one of us. He is a professional chartered accountant employee all his life, and he retired as an employee. And after retirement, in fact, I had met him long back, and he told me that his plan after retirement is to put his feet up and spend a couple of 3 months in US with his daughter and her family, and then just kind of take a break by traveling and seeing places. All that was his plan post retirement. And then what did he do? Somewhere in the age of 65, suddenly something bit him and he woke up, and that what bit him was the entrepreneurship bug. And then he said, I have so much of knowledge and I have so much of experience gained over a decade, over a lifetime of working for others. Now, why should that not be put to use for myself? And suddenly he became a transformed man. His feet, which was put up, came down, and he became very active. And today he has created a company which is into affordable housing finance. It's less than a decade-old company, and they are likely to come to the market for an IPO shortly. And the indications are that it will be valued at maybe about $2 billion. So that's the indication, and created in under a decade, so to say. So all this leads us up to is the fact that we don't have to be the most brilliant guy on earth. We don't have to be the most moneyed guy on earth. We don't have to be, and we don't even have to be young or old, anything. Age is not an issue. Money is not an issue. Your society, your background, your family background, nothing is an issue. Do you have an idea? Do you have an idea which tries to solve some real life problem? And if you have that idea, next, please. Sorry. So this is the third person I wanted to introduce. All of you, I'm sure, know her. She's become a rage. She's just become a rage, and you can just see her age. Just see her age. So at 106, you don't even feel like putting your feet up. It's difficult. Even that is a difficult task. You don't even think of putting your feet up. Even thinking is a difficult task, I'm sure, at that age. And she goes on to become the rage of the net now, internet, and she is the best recipe person on YouTube. And I think she's probably as famous or as popular as anyone that we can name. Next, please. Yeah, next. So what makes us an entrepreneur? Next. So do you have an idea? Do you have an idea to try and solve a real life problem? And then can you bring in all the other elements of execution to that? You know, there is somebody whom I know. He's a person who was an engineer, graduated as an engineer and then an MBA. And as usual, as an engineer and MBA, the first thing is you join an IT company. There's no other destination. It's always IT companies which are your destination. You join one of those typical big IT companies, then that's it. Your life is made. Everything is over in your life. The next thing is to get married, settle down, and that's it. So this guy kicked his job and he started a company just about maybe 2-3 years back. And you know, the idea for him was basically that there are companies which are selling software on the internet. Companies which sell software on the internet. So he said, when people come on those internet sites of these companies and then go away without buying, do those companies know why this person came in the first place? How did he come? How did he even know about the site of this company which is selling the software? And then why did he surf through that website? And at the end of it, why did he drop off? What made him drop off without completing a sale? So do these companies know that? And is it a valuable information for that company to know it? Will that company find it valuable? Will they be willing to pay for that particular knowledge of why this person, first of all, how he came, and then why did he search, and then why did he drop off? Is that knowledge something valuable enough for that company to pay me? As small or as simple as that. And so he went and set up a company which is into, you know, analytics of this kind of people who come to a site and then go away without completing a sale. And now he's still small. He's not one of those billion-dollar unicorn companies yet, but is very much on the way. I mean, they have raised 2 rounds of funding and they are well on the way to becoming again a big company. And so all I'm trying to say is that, you know, ideas is all that matters. Ideas is all that matters. You must have an idea. You keep looking around, all around you. Where are the problems? Where are the problems all around us in real life? And is there a solution that I can think of for solving that real life problem? And if I can bring up a solution, and then if I can back up that solution with whatever is there on the screen, you know, are you passionate about that problem? Are you ruthless in your execution? Can you stretch your capital? And are you hungry for turning out an excellent performance? And do you have the impatience to move, keep things moving? So if you can back up your idea with all of this, then I think we are well on the way to creating a brand of our own. Next, please. Yeah, next. So, I mean, just a very, very small, hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, please.
So it's audible.
Okay. Just a small background on myself. So,
So kindly unmute yourself. Mr. Vasudevan, sir. You have to unmute yourself. You have muted yourself, sir. Vasudevan, sir, you have muted yourself.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Some
No
glitch, technical glitch.
Yes.
Okay. So, so I also come from a similar background that I have kind of been talking about the others. Basically, a low middle income, employee all my life. There is an opportunity. Suddenly, some opportunity came up to understand this informal and underserved segment of the market. And so from there, an idea came, and we created Equitas. Next, please. So basically, the 3 things that I believe are very important to create a sustainable organization. You must have a clarity of purpose, what you want to do. It must be very clear. Your intentions should be very honest. I mean, Adolf Hitler had a clarity of purpose. Without doubt, he was extremely clear about what he wanted, but his intent was not very honest. So it was not sustainable at the end of the day. So your intention should be very honest, and it should be backed up by strong action, integrity of action. So if I regard these three are the pillars of sustainable organization creation. So if we can ensure that we are on this building anything that we want to build on these three pillars, then surely it should be definitely sustainable. Next, please. So just a little bit of stats, not very relevant for you guys, but still it boosts my personal ego. So please pardon me for just a minute. So the bank is about 25,000 crores. We have about 900 branches. We have over 85% of our borrowers are new to the banking system. So we are actually creating markets. We are not grabbing market share from others. We are actually creating markets. So I'm sure you'd have read of this blue ocean strategy. So it's basically finding empty space and creating a market from there rather than competing with an existing player. With 3 million odd clients, of course, our technology will have to be state of art because we are a very latest new bank. So obviously we have no legacy problems, and the entire stack that we have created is a very, very modern architecture that we have put in place, and about 16,000 odd staff. Next, please. So this is the second half of my speech that I wanted to touch about, the social phase that I was talking about. So I'm sure that all of us know that companies in India have always had a social consciousness built into them, always. I mean, n number of times you have seen, factories which have started a hospital, which have started a school, anywhere near the campus of the factory, basically to support the workers and their families, their children, and so on. So the concept of social activities for an entrepreneur is not new to Indians. It's definitely not new, and it's something that all of us have seen others doing it. All these years, all these decades, business houses have been spending a lot of money and time and effort in creating some kind of social infrastructure around the place where their factories are located. And now the government, of course, is trying to formalize that. They have come with this rule of 2% per annum of profit that has to be contributed to social activities, CSR activities. And with that, hopefully the impetus to social development will be even further higher than in the past. Equitas, we have taken our social initiatives very seriously right from 2008 when we started business. We started our trust within 2 months of starting the company. We started our trust, and we took a call to provide 5% of our quarterly profits every quarter. Every quarter, whatever profit we make for the quarter, we contribute 5% of that to the trust. And so that money is then used by the trust for carrying out whatever activities. And we have over 500 people who are employed on our CSR activities. Next, please. So just to give a small idea of what we do, we run medical camps. We have a tie-up with about 900 hospitals across 13 states. We do about 300 camps every month. About 60 people, 60 lakh, 6 million people have benefited over the last decade or so that we have been doing this activity. Next, please. We run 8 schools. These are all in Tamil Nadu. All of them are in Tamil Nadu. They are called Equitas Gurukul matriculation schools. They are all English medium matriculation state board schools. We provide really high quality English medium education for these children who are all, most of them are first time educating people in their families. We have a rule also that anyone who wants an admission in our school, the parents' income should be less than 2 lakh rupees per annum. So if the income of the parent is more than 2 lakh rupees, then they don't need us. There is enough private schools for them to put their children and pay the full fees and take their children there. So we offer a very subsidized school fees, and we ensure that the parents come from very low income, only their children are admitted. Next, please. We do job fairs with a variety of organizations. We do job fairs, various state governments, Rotaries, lots of clubs and a lot of corporates join us in this initiative. And this is for unemployed youth from the low-income communities. And so far we have crossed about 2.5 lakh people whom we have been able to place in employment. Next, please. Skill training is the other thing. Next, please. Yeah, skill training is another area where we put a lot of focus. These are all very small skills, cottage skills, which can be taught not more than about, let's say, a week or 10 days, and easy to convert to cash. You know, for example, we teach people how to make artificial jewels. No, you can just make an sitting in your house without any investment in machineries. You can make an artificial jewel for as little as 50 rupees, and you can just go and sell it into your nearest neighborhood shops, which can buy it you maybe at 75 rupees or 100 rupees, and they will probably sell it at 200 rupees or so. So skills like this, which are easily convertible into cash for the very, very low income families. So that's where our focus is. So we have trained over 6 lakh people so far on this. Next, please. So this is our bird's nest program. This is done only in Chennai. All the other programs run all over the place, but this done only in Chennai. These are payment dwellers, people who live on the payments. So where we talk to them, and if they are willing to move into your house, you know, it's not that it's automatic. You know, making them agree to move into a house itself is a challenge, because they are so used to living on that payment. You know, one generation has probably lived on that same payment. So moving them into a house itself mentally is a challenge. So once they agree to that, then we move them into a house in the nearest low-income colony. We try and locate a house and move them there. We pay the advance, rental advance. We also commit to pay 6 months of rent on their behalf to the owner. 7th month onwards, they have to pay the rent themselves. But in the 6 months period, what we do is, based on the people in that house, based on their ability, we teach them some skills and then enable them to link to the nearby market, nearby shops, and ensure that their income goes up, so that by the 7th month, they are able to pay the rent on their own. So in Chennai, as per the census, we have about nearly 12,000 families who are living on payments. So approximately 1,800 families we have moved from the payment into houses, which means maybe about 15-18% of the people living on payments, we have been able to make them move into houses. And we have tied up with other NGOs where we are sponsoring the education of the children of these payment dwellers who are moving into a house. We are sponsoring the education for them through other NGO tie-ups that we have got. And so far, I think we have supported financially the education of over about 1,500 children of these family people. Next, please. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. So I would just like to conclude. You can take the presentation off, please. So I would like to conclude by just highlighting a few points. One is that getting into an employment doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It's still very attractive, no doubt on that. Or trying your hand in business can be also quite rewarding, can be also very stressful, can be also very risky. Entrepreneurship comes with its own risks also. It's not all glory and bed of roses, definitely not. So as I said, for every one company that everybody talks of, there'll be 100 companies behind them who failed. So entrepreneurship comes with its own risk, but the opportunity exists today in India. Any of us can become an entrepreneur if we have the courage and the willingness to take the risk and the ability to come with the right ideas. But if we don't have it, it's not that we need to be ashamed about it. Getting into a proper employment is also very, very acceptable as a career option. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's not like only entrepreneurs are great and the salaried employees are very poor, not in the least. But what I would say is that all of you guys who are all going to graduate from this college, all of you guys are, without doubt, without an exception, all of you guys are going to make money in your life. I have no doubt on that. I'm sure the institutes have no doubt on that, because they have invested so much of their own personal time and effort on each one of you. So there's no doubt that all of you will make it big in your life, will make a lot of money for yourself, will lead a very happy, prosperous, contented life. I have no doubt on that. And as you step into your career progression, as you step into that life of glory and life of comfort and life of material prosperity and things like that, the only request that I would leave behind is to please also think of the people who are not as lucky as we are. And I was just checking with Dr. Ponnaya, and I understand that your institute has a social entrepreneurship development program which is being run by your institute, by your department, and you have adopted certain villages in and around the campus, and there are projects running there in these villages of livelihood, of water, of sanitation. All the relevant projects in this kind of locations are being run by your institute. I am also told that students are encouraged to go and participate in these programs and get to see the other side of life, so to say, which is very good. And that, I think, was the most pleasing for me personally. I know that, officially or education wise, you guys are doing extremely well. But the real matter of pride for me was when I saw this and when I heard about the social part of the program. That was the most interesting part for me. And I was so happy that, a large institute like SRM has really looked at social entrepreneurship as a serious or important initiative and put in so much of effort in the past. And I do wish that in the institute a lot more success and a lot more output and outcome on those initiatives. And so my only piece of advice to each and every one of you as you graduate would be that make money for yourself. There's no shame in making money at all. There's absolutely no shame in saying that I've made money, I've become rich. There's nothing to be ashamed about. So please go out and make money for yourself. But at the same time, just see what can you do for the underprivileged? What can you do for them? It can be anything. It doesn't make any difference at all. You don't have to become, you don't have to earn 1 crore to say I can start donating. You earn 1 lakh, you donate to 1,000 rupees. That's enough. You don't have to wait till you make 1 crore or 10 crores to start saying that then now I can make a contribution or now I can make a donation. Not in the least. So anything and everything is, most welcome. So please look at the social side of you as an individual. Your institute has a very strong social face and a social side to it, which is very commendable. But you people who are graduating and finally you are going to represent your institute, and tomorrow when somebody talks to you, they are going to evaluate and value the institute through the eyes of you. Through your eyes and through your motions and through your action, they are going to evaluate your institute. And so when you step out, I do wish that all of you, each one of you, will take some time out and keep looking at the society around you. What can you do for the people around you? And if for every small action that you can do, the society stands enriched to that extent. So thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I think it is a very small word when you say it is your personal ego, what you have done. It's amazing. It is something which we call for a standing ovation, actually. I think if we were presently in a physical mode, I think you would have expected the entire auditorium to stand and clap for the excited work that you have been doing in your entire lifetime. It's amazing, sir. And thank you so much for sharing what you have done through this process. We actually have the vote of thanks at 12:55. And we are at 12:10 now. So we have got around 40 odd minutes to go for question answer session. And before we started the session, I received around 60 questions from the students. So I have online now, I request my students to, all the people who are there in the audience, you can put your Q&A, your questions in the Q&A block, which I will be taking it up and presenting it to the chief speaker. So he will answer it. But I will start the Q&A session with one question that I had in all of us had in mind. It was basically from your interview to the Economic Times in 2016, if you can recollect, sir. This was about a statement which you made that how did your bank or microfinance company grew? And you said people started liking our behavior. And that was a very, very profound statement, which I felt. Fun banking. This we have not heard anywhere. Banking is always a serious business. And you have coined a word called fun banking, right, sir? So I would like you to speak more about it for our sake. How do you make banking as a fun concept for the employees as well as the clients who come in? So that's the first question, sir, to you.
Yeah, so when we became a bank, we were also trying to think of what kind of positioning that we should take in as a bank. Then we kept thinking of bank in your palm, basically mobile app and all that. So anything can be done on your mobile app. So bank in your hand, bank in your palm, or various things we kept thinking of. But ultimately we zeroed in on this fund banking because, as you said, that's a position that is not very commonly taken by banks, and in a way, it can also be a little risky. It can be a little risky because somebody can say that this is not even a serious bank. I can't put my hard-earned deposit, hard-earned money as a deposit in this bank because these buggers are not even serious. They are here for fun, and they are not a serious bank. So I can't put my hard-earned money there. So we even thought that there could be a risky element to taking that position of fund banking. But then we thought that if it is done properly and and given and explained and delivered in the right way, people will be able to take it. So we went ahead and kind of took that position. And thankfully, it has never affected our deposit mobilization any which way. But I think it created a lot of sense of camaraderie amongst the employees that you got to work. I mean, obviously, bank is serious, but not only bank, any company is serious. Any money making exercise is a serious exercise. Nothing, no doubt on that. But still, do we have to be very serious also at all points in time, or can I lighten the atmosphere and still be doing a efficient output? So that was the whole challenge in front of us. So we have tried our best to make banking fun for our employees, and if our employee is able to relate to it, and if our employee is able to enjoy the work atmosphere and the working here in the bank, then obviously that feeling of happiness will be communicated to the customers. And a happy employee will be able to show that to the customer, and the customer should be able to start seeing that, and maybe it will kind of spread to the customers also. So basically, that's how we came up with that, and it was a little risky, but we still went ahead and took that.
Thank you, sir. This again with the same interview, because there was something which put me through with the question is they mentioned that there are once a jobless man, this was in 2016, has created an enterprise worth 4,600 crores in less than a decade. Was not one of those driven by entrepreneurship. His entrepreneurial journey was by accident. Sir, how did this happen? Starting into an entrepreneurial venture, and what were your unlearnings? More than your learnings, we are interested in knowing what did you unlearn from the entire process of this entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, so I mean, starting a company and then converting into a bank was not even in my in my thought process. We are all traditional background of employees, as I said, low middle income families. So our job, our aspiration is always to just join a nice company and become an employee. I mean, that's what we are really good for. We are extremely good for working for others. We have no idea how to work for ourselves. But we are extremely good in working for others. So that's how our genes are built over so many generations. So that's how I have also been. As you mentioned in the introductory thing, I worked in Chola for more than 2 decades, and then there was some reason I had to leave Chola. I mean, we entered into a joint venture with DBS Bank of Singapore, and after that, they wanted somebody from their side to run the company and not me. So that was the reason. Otherwise, I would have just continued in Chola. I would have still, as of date, I would still have been in Chola if that had not happened. And so then I had to leave them. Then I went to Bombay, and I was working as in DCB Bank as head of consumer banking. But my daughter had a severe problem in Bombay in terms of the pollution levels, and she was constantly having a problem and started developing bronchitis. So the doctor had advised us, you just have to go back. You can't be in Bombay any longer. So I came back, and then we really didn't know what to do next. And I was just trying to figure out what's to be done next. And that's where the whole idea of underprivileged access to money from the banks for the underprivileged segments was really, really very short. And so when that gap was there, and then we identified that as a gap, and then we thought, why not we start something to plug that gap? And that's how the whole Equitas journey was born. In terms of learnings, if you say, I think the learnings are plentiful. The one learning was that, actually you need to go down to your, target segment. If you really need to go down to your target segment, and then the level of understanding that you start getting is very, very different to your level of understanding otherwise. I mean, there is a famous story going around about Kavinkar. Again, Kavinkar is a great story of entrepreneurship right from the heart of Chennai. C.K. Ranganathan. So, all of us, I'm sure, know him, Velvet, and all the stick shampoos and all this kind of stuff. So the story going around on Kavinkar is that, they had come with a shampoo, and as usual, shampoos are always in bottles of 500 grams or whatever it is. And so he was actually going out in the market, trying to sit with this target customer segment to try and understand their perspective. And the story goes that he was sitting with a few auto drivers. And the auto drivers, typically they are spending their entire time in the day, entire day in the sun. And so your hair becomes very dry. It becomes very dry because it's always exposed to sun, wind, and heat. So it becomes very dry. So he identified the auto driver segment as a potential customer for his shampoo. Ideally they should use a shampoo because their hair goes so dry. So he sat with a few drivers and was chatting with them and trying to find out what are they doing to keep their hair a little better and not so dry. And then the topic came to shampoos. So he said, are you guys using a shampoo and all that? And then the response apparently was that who can afford the shampoos? They are all so costly. One bottle costs you, say, 100 rupees or 200 rupees or something like that. We can't afford those kind of bottles. And so this thought was born in him that, can I come with a shampoo which is only 5 rupees, not 50 or 100, just 5 rupees. And so this whole sachet story is supposed to have been born out of that interaction of the client. So why I'm saying that here is because you meet your target customer or a target group or a target clients, and your level of understanding is very different to what you thought it used to be before that. So in Equitas also, when we started, we really went down. We spent a substantial amount of time with the low-income families, sitting with them, going through their entire life cycle processes and the way they live, the house they live, the kind of pressures and stress they go through and all that. So it was very interesting, and it gave us a lot of insight. And everything that we think is very easy or very normal is a big challenge for them. And so we designed a lot of stuff in terms of our products or processes and all that, which was more aligned to what they wanted rather than what we thought they wanted. So I think clearly the learning was that never try to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. Just go to the customer and find out actually what he wants, rather than trying to think what they are probably likely to be wanting.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from our director faculty. The question is this: if India's GDP is moving towards services, internet, and software, how are we going to reduce the production and manufacturing investment, as they are the basic platform for employment of our 58 crore youth?
see the relative importance of manufacturing services and agriculture. This relative importance from a GDP perspective has been, over the centuries has been shifting all the time. Every economy in the world was agrarian based at some points in time. Then they became industrialized. So industry's contribution became the highest. Then the services took over, and so the weightage of contribution keeps changing. But it doesn't mean that something goes down. It's just that something else is growing up. So when the economy veered away from agri-based to industrialized base, and then to services based, it's not that agriculture has died down. It's not like everybody has stopped doing agriculture. There's no more farming in the world, and everybody is doing industries or manufacturing or services. It's not like that. It's just that less number of people are employed in agriculture, but somewhere because of better technology or better processes, the productivity of that lesser number of people is so high that they're able to produce the same as what a larger number of people are producing earlier. So your agriculture production hasn't really gone down. It's just the number of people employed has gone down, and which is also good in a way, because ultimately the more skilled labor earn more money, less skilled labor earn less money. So if you are able to move from an agri employment to an industrial employment, you start earning more money. And if you move from an industrial to services employment, you make even more money, because skill sets are required are higher. So in India, yes, internet and services and all that is definitely on the upswing, no doubt on that. And you saw in the chart also, maximum amount of money moving into internet and software services. But the government is obviously, I mean, all of us have been reading the government policies and programs and the budget papers, all of us must have read. There's so much of thrust and focus given on manufacturing also. And the PLI scheme, the production linked incentive scheme, I think that's going to be the game changer for India, game changer for manufacturing in India. And sector after sector are getting re-rated by the market because of the potential benefit that this PLI scheme could bring into the industries. And so there is a serious level of investment, fresh rounds, because the PLI is only available for new units. It's not available for old units, which means that people have to start a new unit or expand an existing unit to be able to get the benefit of PLI. And when you do that, you are then expanding and increasing the manufacturing capacities in the country. So that PLI scheme is something which we all believe is going to be a game changer on manufacturing, and potentially it could improve our position as a manufacturing base in the world compared to our neighbor. So I don't think the importance is going down in anything. I don't think the importance is going down at all. It's just that the relative weightage of GDP contribution will keep changing, but importance is going down. But from an employment perspective, yes, the opportunity for less skilled labor is going to keep reducing over time, replaced by jobs which require more skills. So that is a reality. That's a reality. And if you look at the recent NEP, National Education Policy, that has been brought out by the central government, they are actually clearly recognizing this changed scenario, and that NEP is actually promoting and suggesting and promoting the concept of vocational skill training in schools. We have never heard of that. I mean, I remember in my school when I was there, I used to make this hangers, as part of my work experience or something like that. They used to give me a rod and we used to bend it into a form of a hanger. So that little bit of thing I've been in my own school. So, and people do stitching and this and that, all that as working, WP. But this NEP, I think, is the first major step taken by the government. They are really talking of vocational skills being built into the school curriculum itself, so that children, when they graduate, even just from a school, they are getting better skilled from an employability perspective, and not just being better in terms of academics. So I think the skilling is what is going to be the challenge. Not the focus, but really the skilling, the ability of people to get skilled is going to be a major challenge. And if people are remaining unskilled, I think that's going to be a national problem.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from one of our student who has from specializing in banking and financial services. He asked how bank can diversify its portfolio from unsecured assets to secured assets, especially during this pandemic. So I would like you to start maybe from the demonetization time till now. I think that should give us a more perspective regarding the entire aspect.
See, see, a bank basically is a very high-risk business model because you are accepting money directly from the public. So that puts you into a very high-risk pedestal. And that is why we have a plethora of RBI regulations and guidelines which are monitoring and controlling the banks. So if a bank goes down, it is just not the shareholders who end up losing. It's also the depositors, and the depositors are the public, small depositors, pensioners with their pension money. I mean, you can't imagine if a bank goes down, the chaos that it can leave behind is just too enormous to even comprehend. So banks can never go down, as simple as that. So a bank has to be substantially de-risked. You know, an NBFC or a finance company is not so risky a model because you don't borrow from the public. You are only borrowing from other banking and mutual fund industries. And if you default a bank, it's okay, fine. They just take it as part of their NPA and get on with their lives. But bank is a very different kettle of fish. So when we became a bank, we put our agenda clearly in front of us that, we need to de-risk the bank and make it a lot more stable and sustainable so that, we are not putting anybody's money to risk. And that is where the whole approach of, adding more of secure products and reducing the weight of unsecured product was part of our plans long back. And that's something that we have been doing. And so right now we have 20% of our loans which are unsecured, 80% are secured. And if you look at peer banks, the larger banks in India, typically the percentage of unsecured loans for any bank, which is held as a safe or a stable bank, the unsecured portion of loans will be anywhere between 10 to 15%. So we are about 20. So we'll still have to go a little bit more to kind of get into the real stable kind of a platform. But yes, the requirement to be stable is very paramount for a bank, extremely paramount for a bank. You can't afford to take a risk with a bank.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from one of our students who is asking, why are banks afraid of bitcoins and cryptocurrencies? Will bank become extinct due to cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many reasons people use to get into the demising of banks. When the internet came up, when fintechs came up, people said banks will cease to exist. And when cryptocurrencies and bitcoins come up, again, banks are the ones who are supposed to become extinct because of that and all that. But anyway, time will tell. So I'm not going to predict anything. Let time show us the path. But in terms of bitcoins in India, as you know, bitcoins are actually banned. It's illegal. And the government is actually now even coming with a legislation. It's not yet out, but the government is looking at bringing out a legislation where they will clearly ban bitcoins in the country. But on the other hand, RBI is actually looking at introducing cryptocurrency of their own. So it's a sovereign cryptocurrency that we are looking at, rather than allowing private cryptocurrencies to float around in the market. And so cryptocurrencies are, I mean, there's an element of risk in that, because ultimately what happens is, monetary control policy or monetary control function of a central bank of any country requires that the central bank keeps a control over the level of currency floating around in the country, the level of debt in the country, and all kind of stuff. There has to be some amount of macroeconomic balance which has to be maintained by the central banks of every country. So just to give you a small example, when you ride on a Ola or a Uber kind of a taxi, what you do is that you convert your real rupee from a proper bank account, you convert into a Ola money. And you convert into Ola money, and then when you ride on Ola, you only use that to pay the driver. You don't really use currency, or you don't even transfer from your bank account. You just debit your Ola money and pay off for the ride. In a way, that's a cryptocurrency, because it's a digital currency in some form. But that's a closed user group, so the risk is not much, because it's just within the closed user group of Ola driver, Ola owner, and Ola customer. It's a very closed user group, so the risk is obviously not much. Outside of that Ola ecosystem, that money, that Ola currency or Ola money or whatever they call it, has no value at all. It has to be reconverted back to proper rupee for it to have any value. So the risk is very little in that. The only risk is if Ola folds up completely, suddenly it disappears and is not able to survive or exist any longer, then all the Ola money that you had converted and kept to them might go down the drain for you. That's the only risk, but otherwise it's not a systemic risk in that sense. But cryptocurrency is basically a systemic risk because it becomes freely tradable by everybody and anybody. So it's actually trying to replace the sovereign currency. And so that risk is very high and it needs to be regulated. So India, I think we are very clear, at least in India, that we will not allow private cryptocurrencies to float around. It will be only sovereign currency, if at all, that RBI will introduce. And that's where, and of course, blockchains, which are a medium for moving and transacting on cryptocurrency, is something which will have to go parallel, hand in hand to that. So all that ecosystem will have to be developed, and maybe over time it will come in place. But right now it's illegal, so we can't even do that.
Thank you for your thoughts. This is one question which has been asked by many of our students. It's regarding, as your bank, Equitas, basically funds, small-time traders, daily usage products, or basically on the eatery aspects. The question they have asked is, how has digitalization, usage of technology, changed the entire banking aspect regarding reaching to the customer base, and how has Equitas taken it up and used it for its own development and growth?
So there are two parts to the bank. One is on the deposit side and second is on the lending side. So in Equitas, on our lending side, is 90% of our borrowers are from the low-income community, low-income segment, very, very small traders, small business people, small units, very small, extremely small, you can even say tiny units. So that's the segment to which we lend on the lending side. The level of technology that's being used in that segment, obviously it's very, very little, extremely little. So we can't really, I mean, we have an app, customers can actually log in and apply for a loan, but we don't really get much traction on that, simply because they're not having the ability to do that at this point in time. Right now, our technology on our lending side is more of internal efficiencies. So almost all our processes are paperless. It's almost everything is digitized. So things move on the digital platforms. We rarely use papers, much of papers anywhere in the system. So all that technology is more of efficiency improver as far as the lending side is concerned at this point in time. We have a 10% of our loan which is onto the SMEs, which is slightly of a better profile of borrowers. And there, of course, there's a lot of digital usage that is done with the clients. So again, there it's all quite an online loan application processing system that runs. And we are integrated with the GST portal. We are integrated with the IT portal. So customer doesn't have to even give me too many of his documents. I will just go and download. Once he gives me his credentials and his consent, then I just go and download a lot of documents from the relevant sites on his behalf. And then we process based on that. So the customer is spared the requirement of having to dump a lot of documents on me. On the SME side, whereas on the very small retail side, not much of technology in use there. But on the deposit side, where our focus is on the mass and the mass affluent segment of the customers, On the deposit side, yes, our technology adoption is very, very strong. I mean, we as a bank, right from 2016, when we became a bank, we have been putting a lot of effort on our technology front. And we are probably one of the most advanced digital bank in the country today. So we have a selfie account. People can open an account online in a matter of about 4 to 5 minutes. You just need your Aadhaar and your PAN card with you. Then you can open an account online in just about 4 or 5 minutes. And then using our video KYC, you can convert it into a full KYC account. So a selfie account has restrictions. You cannot transact more than 1 lakh rupees. But using our video KYC, so you don't have to step into a branch. Using a video KYC, you can convert it to a full KYC. Then it becomes a full-fledged account. You can transact any amount of money you want. And the traction on that has been very high. And so we are actually working like a fintech bank. We are not really working like a traditional bank because of the fact that we came so late into the market. So the latest technology is something that we have been able to use. We don't have a legacy system which need to be changed and all that. So all our entire system runs on API format. So so everything to everything talks to each other. Even internally within our own different applications, we talk only through APIs. There's no hard integration at all. And so that means that we are very quick to the market. And any tie with any partners that we want to do, fintech partners and all that, the go-to market is very fast, basically because everything runs, I mean, the entire bank is an API banking format in that sense. So technology adoption is coming up very strongly on the liability side, on the deposit side. On the lending side, not much, I would say. I mean, there are a few fintech lenders in the market today. In India, globally also, there are a few fintech lenders. But I have a feeling that the lending getting digitized fully is a very long way off. Not only for the low income, even for anybody else, it's quite a long way off. The immediate opportunity for a bank, you know, the payment system has become fully digitized today. All of us know that. Nobody goes to a bank to do any payments any longer. You know, all payments are done sitting at wherever you are. Payments have got completely digitized. I think the next is going to be liabilities. Today, people still either go to a branch to open an account, or they go to a branch to deposit a check, or they expect somebody to come to their house to open an account. That's still happening. But I think in the next maybe as short a time frame as 3 years or so, I think account opening and deposit will completely become online. Nobody will ever want to visit a branch. Nobody will want anyone to come to your house either. It'll be as digitized as payments are today. I think that's going to happen very, very, very shortly. The lending part of it, I believe, will take much longer time.
Thank you, sir. There is a question from our PhD research scholar. He asks, what should universities actually do, or what kind of activities can they do with institutions outside, financial institutions outside, basically to promote social entrepreneurship, ideation, and thinking process and promotion within the students' community? Because that is something that we actually don't take it up at a very high level. So what is, according to your experience, that we can do to improve that aspect of it?
So there are, I think there are 3 things which can be done. One is that the institutes themselves can take on certain social projects. Obviously, you don't have that bandwidth to do those kind of stuff directly, but there are a lot of people like us, I mean, a lot of NGOs like us who will be happy to partner with institutions like yours and set up and create and run projects which are social projects in any geography or any segment, whatever. I mean, the amount of what do you say, the amount of social problems in the country is unlimited. There's just enough amount of problems in the country today. So anyone who has a desire to address that, there's enough scope to go out and address it. And so institutes like yours can do it yourself. I'm not saying no, but it's not even required. There are enough NGOs like us, enough more of NGOs like us. I mean, you just have to be a little careful in selecting NGOs which are having the right, ethics and value systems. That's about it. But then people like us will be happy to partner with institutes like you and create projects. So that is one thing which the institute can do. The second thing which the institute can do is in terms of actual on the ground exposure for students. you have at the end of the first year and all that, you have internships that people are asked to go out and do it. Basically, we're trying to tell the students that after graduation, you're going to work somewhere, go and get some exposure right now. That's the concept of internship. So why not social internship along with business internship? Why not social internship? So if you are saying 6 weeks of business internship, can we say 2 weeks of social internship also required to graduate from an institute? So that will be another second step which the institute can take to kind of get the social entrepreneurship, kind of imbibed into the DNA of the students before they leave the college. The third which the institute can do is what is called the ESG. The concept of ESG is becoming quite popular now. ESG means environment, social, and governance. So basically, the sustainability of every commercial entity in the world. People are now saying that every commercial entity has to be ESG compliant, which means that you must be taking care of the interest of environment, interest of the social sector, societies, and in terms of high level of governance and ethics. So that ESG concept or ESG model is something which is fast spreading in the entire investing community in the world. And so you could have, I don't know whether you can have a full paper on that as part of a topic. I don't know whether the curriculum permits that much. But if it doesn't also, at least some amount of exposure on ESG will help the students a lot. Till 2-3 years back, people are not even talking about it. Today, people are talking quite seriously about it, but no action yet. But the discussion has become a little more serious. But I think maybe 5 years from today, any investor who puts money into a company will probably say, first, let me see your past 5-year profit track record, and then let me see your past 5-year ESG track record. And only if that meets, I'm going to invest in you. Otherwise, I'm not going to invest in you. So I have a feeling that in the next 3 to 5 years, ESG is going to become mainstream from an investment perspective. And that's going to drive organizations to become more and more ESG compliant and not just profit-making institutions. So ESG exposure for the students will help a lot, and either in the form of a full paper or some exposure, whatever it is. But these are the 3 things I think the institute can do.
That's a great input, sir. I think we should be able to incorporate it in we have the internship process, and I think our dean is very actively looking into how to incorporate these aspects. I think we will take it up with you. And I think you are in for a lot of trouble because you will be called up for any kind of hand-holding that we will be asking for your help, sir. So the next question is regarding how does small finance banks support the middle class as well as the lower middle class dreams and requirements?
So, there is a person called Raghuram Rajan who was the governor of RBI about maybe 7-8 years back or 10 years back. So Raghuram Rajan is a professor in an university in the US. He is an economics professor, and so somewhere in 2007, the Congress government in those days, they invited him to India to head a committee on financial sector reforms in the country. So he came out with that committee, Raghuram Rajan committee came out with a recommendation of high-level financial sector reforms in the country. It had 5 chapters in that. One of the chapter 3 actually, the entire chapter 3 was dedicated to how to make a bank reach out to the unserved and underserved segment of the market, the low income, the small low income people and all that. How to make the bank reach out to that? Because the statistics, the government statistics is that in spite of nationalization 60 years back, with the single purpose of making banks go to the masses and the common man and not only fund the elite industrialist. That is the objective of nationalization. But 60 years after that, the reality is that in spite of every effort that the government and RBI has taken, a large chunk of the low-income people are out of the banking net. almost something like 85% of the low-income families don't have any access to banking services, as much as 85%. So Raghuram Rajan's committee recommendation was that India should introduce a new model of banks, which is called the small banks, whose mandate should be to go and lend to the small entrepreneurs or the low-income entrepreneurs. So that was the recommendation, that one chapter was written on that. Actually, in the US, you have you have a set of banks called the community banks. There's a concept of community banks in the US, which was extremely strong. About 25,000 community banks existed long back. But a lot of them have kind of either wound up or merged or whatever. But today, around nearly 5,000 such community banks are operating in the US even today. So 5,000 of them, that's a very large number of community banks. And they are doing a fantastic service of, supporting the very low income or the small entrepreneurs in the US. So Raghuram Rajan's concept, I am assuming, might have kind of, been built on that model to create something like that in India. But the government never really implemented that suggestion for a long time. And finally, when Raghuram Rajan became the governor of RBI himself, then he took up and dusted out his own recommendation, and then he implemented it. That's how the small finance bank concept came into India at all. And there are only two differences between a small finance bank and a universal bank. There are only two differences. One is that we have a 75% priority sector target. And priority sector, as you know, our priority sector targets are target for lending to certain underprivileged and small borrowers, like farmers, artisans, small units, and all that. So that's a target given to all the banks. The universal banks have a target of 40%. So 40% of all their loans should be to priority sector. For a small finance bank, it's not 40, but it's 75. So a large part of our loans have to be necessarily given to the small borrowers. And the second thing is that, we have a rule that 50% of my loan, at least minimum 50% of my loan should be less than 25 lakh rupees. Whereas for a universal bank, this kind of a rule is not there. So these are the two differences. And so the concept of small finance bank itself is that you are mandated to go and support the small and the low income and the small units. So when you do that, automatically you end up supporting the small units and the small entrepreneurs.
So we're going to give you another two questions only, because the time is. Rest of the
Nisha ma'am, one minute.
Yes.
So, one more question with me.
Yes.
From
please.
me, third question. You please go ahead with these two questions. I'll take the last one.
Okay, so the dean says 3 questions, so we'll stick on with 3 questions. And the rest of the questions, sir, we would like to mail it to you, because our students have taken efforts to write it, and we'll send across for your answers.
Sure.
The concept of the question that has been asked is about bad bank concept. So the student has asked, do you believe that the bad bank concept, if rolled out, will give a lift for the Indian banking system?
See, the concept of bad bank is a very good concept. Let me give you an example of a branch of Equitas, just to put it in the right perspective. We had a branch, we still have that branch in Nagpur. So Equitas Bank, we have a branch in Nagpur. And because of whatever reason, maybe we had some bad set of managers there, whatever it is, that branch ended up with a very high level of NPA, very high level of NPA, and the bad loans and the bad book was very high in that branch. So whenever you have a branch with a high level of bad book, what do you do in that branch? The first thing you do is stop further lending. You don't want good money to go down the drain. So the first thing you do is say, let me stop further lending in this branch. The next thing you do is tell them that now I want the branch cleaned up. Okay, then what do? Typically, you go and replace the staff, because those staff, for whatever reason, are not the right set of guys to have. Maybe it's a capability issue, quality issue, maybe the honesty issue, fraud issue, God knows what, whatever it is. But those are not the guys who will be the right guys to run your branch. So you stop fresh lending, you go and replace the entire staff in the branch, put a new set of people in that branch, and then tell this new set of people that I want you to clean up the branch, clean up the NPA, and then we'll start lending. Now the point is, till it takes time to clean up a bad mess. I mean, you have a house which is in a mess, it takes time to clean up your house. A branch is no different, and it takes time to clean up all the old loan accounts. You have to put through the surface, legal. It takes time to clean up a lot of NPA bad book. So, which means that for a prolonged time, you are not lending in that branch. That branch is not doing any lending for a prolonged time. Second thing is, you've got a new set of people who joined to run the branch. Now, for any human being, they always want to do things which are positive more than the things which are not so positive. In a lending business, giving a loan is a very positive act because you are making somebody smile at the end of that transaction. It's a very positive act. So people get motivated while doing a lending business. Collection business in a bank is a not so positive thing because you are getting money, you are collecting money from a guy who for some reason is not able to pay it. Is not able to pay it. So for some reason he's not having the money or whatever. Now you have to go and get that money out of that guy. So that's a little bit of a stress that you're going through, both at the employee side and the client side, to get the money out of the customer. So it's not a very positive transaction compared to a loan. So you take a new set of guys in the branch and you tell them that, clean up all the NPMs, then only we'll start lending. After 3 months, the staff get fatigued. Their motivation level goes down. Then they also leave. They go for another company or another bank where lending is open and they can do lending besides collection. So they will leave. Then you said, get one more set of guys. Then perennially, this branch is in trouble. Perennially. This is what a bad branch is. Now, what we did actually in that Nagpur is that we took a set of fresh guys. Then we told them, I am going to park this entire old book into Nagpur 1. And I'm starting a new book called Nagpur 2. So all the loans that you are going to start giving now will be booked in Nagpur 2. And Nagpur 2, I don't want any trouble. I want a clean book. I want a profitable book in Nagpur 2. In Nagpur 1, I'm okay. I'll lose. I know I'm going to lose. I have no problem. But you give me a timeline, 6 months, 3 years, 2 years, timeline to reduce the losses and get out of my mess, which is fine. So that's what we did. So what happens is you get a new set of people and you give them Nagpur 2 to start new business. So they are motivated. So they are also willing to work for the not motivating transaction, which is collection. They don't mind it. So you also start ending up collecting the bad book also. So this is at a branch level. I just gave that branch example because it's easy to understand at a branch. Now you should just kind of elevate it at a bank level or at a sector level. The problem is the same. So you have a bank, let's say a PSU bank, typically a PSU bank with an NPA of 25%. Now where's the appetite to lend in that bank? You don't feel like lending. So the lending goes down. If the lending goes down, then the industrial activity goes down and commercial activity goes down. Then the economy gets the impact. So then the bank has to lend. But with 25%, you can't lend. Then if you can, out of 25%, assuming that 3-4% is NPA, which is normal NPA recoverable by normal people, then leave that 3-4% NPA in the bank. Remove the balance 20% NPA, which is hardcore NPA. Guys have skipped fraud customers, skipped customers, a huge amount of legal process required. Take the 20% NPA out of this bank and give it into a new bank whose only focus is collection. There is no business in that bad bank. It's only collection. So they will have specialist collection teams who will only focus on collection. Hopefully they will do better collection job. But this bank becomes freed up of the mess and they have only 3-4% of normal NPA. So they can get back to lending. So the lending starts, the economy restarts, business restarts, everything restarts. Now the only challenge, which has got to be kept in mind is that the new set of people in that bank shouldn't create another 25% NPA in the next 4 years or 5 years. So that is the only challenge. And that is something that the owners have to take care of. And in PSU bank, it's a government. In private bank, it's a board on the shareholders. But in a PSU bank, it's a government. So the owners, whichever be the owners, they have to take care of and they have to give a commitment that the new bank will not end up with 25% NPA in the next 5 years. That they have to give a commitment, because otherwise it's again more money down the drain. So that's the only challenge. If that can be managed, then the bad bank is the only way in which economy will ever get restarted through banks.
So the second last question for the day. There is in most of the interviews which I have gone through, I've been following you. This has been something that you it's a big business. It's quite, the numbers are very huge, but your holdings are not as huge as that. You have limited the holding to around 15% of it. And in one of the interviews, you have been talking about keeping the limit at 15% for anyone who wants to be a part of it. Now, does it not in some way restrict the kind of expansion that the bank may be looking for, or the business may be looking for?
See, before we became a bank, there was no restriction on the level of shareholding. Anybody could own anything. Even one person could own 100% of the company, finance company. So there was no restriction. But internally, we put a cap that any investor, no investor should hold more than 15% in the company. That was only to ensure that it's a very broad-based shareholding and nobody becomes like a owner of the company, because we wanted clearly a very strong management-driven company supervised by a majority independent board. That was our concept. So from a governance perspective, so to achieve that, it was imperative that we don't have one single strong shareholder, because then he's the owner, and then whatever he says has to be done in the company. So we didn't want that situation. So we every round of equity that we raised, we kept going to a new investor. We never used to go back to our existing investors. And that's how we ensured that it was a broad-based shareholding as a finance company. But now as a bank, RBI itself has a mandate. Nobody can own more than 5% in a bank. So automatically, once we became a bank, whatever we were trying to hold as a private agreement became the rule of the thing. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think now I'll ask Dean to put across this question that he has been having.
Okay.
Sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Your contents of the presentation, the presentation, how you have done everything is inspiring to most of our students and few of the teachers also. So my observation is, if anybody asks in the society, do you respect for others? Everybody will tell, yes, I am respecting for others. That is the order of the day. Whether they respect or not, they tell it is there. We have seen in the core values of your bank, in your website, one of the core values is respect for people. So we salute that core value, and it is really inspiring to the society, to the people. How do you capture that particular thing is required? There is a wanting in this part of the economics, in this part of the commercial activity. You have taken your one of the core value as respect for people. Your insights, please.
Yes. So typically in any organization, you have hierarchies. So you have a boss, then the next person, then the next person. And in India, I don't know, maybe because of the Mughals for a few centuries and the British for the next few centuries, somewhere in India, the Indians' DNA and psyche has become one of serfdom. We are very comfortable just going to somebody else. It's just automatic, because for centuries we have lived like that. So when it comes to an organization, it's very easy to see that people taking advantage of the position that they are in and and not treating the people subordinate to them in a proper way. It's very common to see that happening, and it's very easy for people to slip into that kind of position or relationship. So we were very keen that at least in Equitas we should not have anything like that. So I may be the boss, and somebody may be maybe 5 level below me or 6 level below me. Somebody may be there, but when it comes to the individual, when it comes to the human being, I am just as human, and that guy is as human as me. There is no difference at all, in terms of just being a human, basic human being. There's no difference between me and anybody in the system. And if that be so, then am I not due to show him the respect of one human being to the other? That's where the whole concept of respect for others, respect for people comes in. So it's something ingrained in the system here. We kind of propagate that very strongly. When anyone comes into a meeting, the people are not required to stand up. If they stand up, they are soundly scolded or criticized. If people stand up because someone else is coming into the meeting, some boss is coming to the meeting. And when we travel, for example, people come and wait in the airport or in the railway station for hours together to receive us. So clear instructions: nobody should come to receive the boss. The boss better find his own way into the city. If he doesn't even know how to find the route from the airport to the hotel or office, what kind of boss is he? So strict instruction: don't go to the airport and wait for 2 hours, leaving your own job because the boss is coming. And don't offer to take his bag for him. Don't even offer it. The boss should never give it. It's a secondary thing, but you shouldn't even offer to carry the bag of your boss. It's not permitted at all. So I mean, there's a lot of small things like this. I mean, this may appear to be very, very small and silly when you listen to it, but I think a series of such small silly things, if we can do it right, I think that's what promotes the concept of respect for each of us as basic human beings.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. I think your simplicity has come from very profound thinking process behind it. It cannot come just as it is. It requires person to take time off and think about it and to implement it. Our congratulations and our best wishes to you, sir, for giving us this opportunity to listen to you. I also thank all my students who have put across the questions. We have your questions with us. We will be mailing it to Mr. Vasudevan, who will take his time to respond to it, and it will be very interesting that we can share it with you later on. Now we have almost reached the fag end of the program, and we have come to the vote of thanks. And I request Dr. Bhaskar to enter the vote. Thank you, Professor. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nisha. All of us, we know our Chancellor, Dr. Paarivendhar, always like to engage our students, not only in their studies, and also provide them varied opportunities to explore new ideas which make our SRM Institute of Science and Technology to stand distinctly different from the rest. We thank you and we are grateful to you, sir. Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series idea was mooted by Dr. B. Raghavan, advisor to our revered Chancellor, has evolved as one of the flagship programs of our SRM Institute of Science and Technology. Thank you, sir, for extending your continued cooperation. Mr. Pian Vasudevan, from a humble beginning, built his financial empire in the highly competitive banking field, has embarked as an iconic figure to today's youth for his eye for the low-income entrepreneurs and help them with financial assistance, enabling them to become self-independent and to grow on par with the business groups. Thank you, sir, for sharing your rich experience, which will inspire our students to become future entrepreneurs. Your thought-provoking insights will add value to their entire career. We thank our Pro-Chancellor Academics, Pro-Chancellor Administration for lending their support to organize such noteworthy programs. We profusely thank our Vice-Chancellor and our Registrar for giving their valuable directions, which make Dr. Paarivendhar Foundation Lecture Series to explore new horizons. We thank our Director of Communications and his vibrant team for providing their creative and technical support for this virtual program. We thank our Director of International Relations, who readily came forward and invited our foreign students and our university partners from various countries to join virtually in this program. We thank our Dean for his unstinted cooperation and able coordination. We thank Dr. Nisha Ashokan for anchoring eloquently. We thank the media, other industry forums for extending the support in publicizing about this program to their members. We thank our faculty fraternity who are percolating meaningful knowledge guidance to our student community who come out and show their histrionics for the development of our nation, India. We thank our students who absorb varied real-time knowledge from such dynamic achievers like Mr. Pian Vasudevan and propel themselves to become able achievers across the globe, making our India and Indians proud. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. As we have come to the end of the program and we will complete this program with our national anthem, I request all of us to rise. Mr. Raja, can you please play the national anthem for us?
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I think we have come to the end of the program. I thank this speaker and all of us. We can disperse from this meeting and we'll meet again on some other occasion for knowledge sharing. Thank you so much to all of you.